Hi, my name is Onika Brown. Welcome to my interpersonal communication project for my studies in interpersonal communication class for Liberty University. Now, this is my first class towards my master's degree, and it was a great class to start with. The things that I learned in this class will go with me as I evolve and grow, and the books are gems, and they will definitely stay in my library. Next slide. So, what exactly is communication? According to the book Bridges Not Walls, John Stewart defines communication as the continuous, complex, collaborative process of verbal and nonverbal meaning making. As you can see from this definition, communication is never ending and it's not a one size fits all thing. There are 6 features of all communication: meaning, choice, culture, identities, conversation, and nexting. Interpersonal communication is a subset of communication that, according to Stewart, is the type or kind of communication that happens when the people involved talk and listen in ways that maximize the presence of the personal, with the personal having 5 characteristics: uniqueness, unmeasurability, responsiveness, reflectiveness, and addressableness. Being in the digital age, interpersonal communication is slowly eroding away, in my opinion. According to the Turkish online journal of distance education, social media is changing the way we communicate. Facebook, Skype, YouTube, Twitter, and mobile devices are used in education and business in much the same way as they are used in our daily lives as important preferred ways of communication. The EMC equation is identified needs plus intentional resourcing, and that equals enlarging the conversation. I will use the Fireproof movie as an example to explain this. In the movie Fireproof, Caleb was ashamed of his porn issue and verbally attacked Catherine when she brought it up. According to the American Journal of Health Education, a person who is triggered by shame may respond in one of 4 defensive patterns, termed compass of shame. These include withdrawal, attack self, avoidance, or attack others. Much like the movie Fireproof, when both individuals learn how to employ identifying needs and intentional resourcing, it will truly enlarge the conversation. Next slide. My overarching goals are to increase the quality of my life by increasing my communication. I want to enlarge my conversations by fully moving to level 1 listening. I want to get out of and stay out of the drama triangle as a rescuer, and I want to get out of my going nowhere cycle at work. Next slide. A little background information about me and how I may have inherited my behavioral blend. Early on, I knew there was strife in my parents' marriage, and I felt like I didn't want to be a burden. And I believe this feeling led me to be low-key while trying to create peace, first in my own world and then in the lives of others. I was always a free spirit, and ironically, that led me to join the military. I was 17 when I joined, and I believed since I was so young, I was molded to do what I was told and really not question things. Next slide. In the book, How to Solve the People Puzzle by Mel Carbonell, I learned all about my behavioral blend. My this is expected of me, which is my normal guarded mass behavior, is an SI blend. I have a passive personality with strong people skills. I tend to be an emotional person who can feel the vibe of others. I relate well to people. In my Uniquely You assessment, it says that people see me as an inspiring person. I do try my best to inspire those I am led to. I do lack assertiveness and aggressiveness, and I try to avoid conflict at all costs. I don't like to be in control or in charge. I am more of a peaceful servant, trying to bring peace and harmony to my surroundings and situations. I am very sensitive to what others may think about me. Now, my this is me, which is how I really feel and think inside behavioral blend, is CIS. That C-type behavior adds a new dimension to who I really am. In addition to my SI behavior, I do desire clearly defined tasks. I like quality and doing things well. However, I do fall short at quick decision making, and I need time to think things through and process information. Because I have a low C on graph 1 and a high C on graph 2, I'm actually more task-oriented than what others may think I am. I work diligently by myself, and I am pickier about the details when I'm alone or with a few close associates. Next slide. Some positive influences of my behavioral blend is that I'm good with people and prefer quality, which equates to me being easygoing and not bringing a lot of drama to a situation. I like to stabilize those situations, which equates me to being a peacemaker. And lastly, I'm an inspirational person. Next slide. As with anything, there are positives and negatives. A few negative influences of my behavioral blend are that I'm a people pleaser. I'm not assertive, and I'm very passive. I'm seemingly critical of others, especially in private. And lastly, I am poor at quick decision making. Next slide. Now, for me to enlarge my conversation, there are some potential barriers that I must overcome. There are 3 barriers that I know I struggle with. The first is interrupting. I think that I'm going to forget what I'm about to say if I don't interrupt. I am so focused on what I want to say that I'm not fully listening. To overcome this barrier, I plan to say a prayer and ask the Holy Spirit to lead and guide my words. This will relieve me from having to worry that I won't remember what I need to say. Instead, I can focus on the talker. The second barrier that I deal with is self-conscious listening. While communicating, I'm concerned about how I sound. Am I making sense? Can the listener understand me? I often say things like, "Am I making sense?" after a few comments. To overcome this barrier, I will practice and be more aware of my newly learned skills. I believe that as I'm more confident in my communication skills, I will be less self-conscious. The last barrier that I must overcome is ritual listening. As stated in Jane Patterson's book, Why Don't We Listen Better? While I am quiet and watching the speaker, I'm really just waiting for them to be quiet so that I can tell my story or make a point. To combat this, I will be aware of receiving that thud, and I will take a gulp and bite my tongue. Next slide. In addition to barriers, there is noise pollution. Noise pollution are those things, whether internal or external, that is heard that can hinder effective listening. Some examples of internal noise pollution are my thoughts and my anxieties. A solution to my internal thoughts is to begin trying to listen to my thoughts to be aware of what I'm thinking. There is also external noise pollution, which for me are usually interrupting phone calls or my children yelling for me. If I'm in a situation where I'm having to make a meaning-making conversation, I can turn off my phone or go to a place where there is not a phone. As far as my children calling me, I can choose to have meaning-making conversations during those times when they're occupied. Next slide. As I've gone through this project, I now come to my plan of action to make my overarching goals manifest. First, in order to improve my communication and to move toward level 1 listening, I will utilize Peterson's Talker Listener Card, or the TLC, as well as repeat accurately what the person just said. I will also use the guidelines for empathetic listening and Burley Allen's Listening the Forgotten Skill. Number 1, I will be attentive and create a positive atmosphere through my nonverbal behavior. 2, I will be a sounding board and assume a non-judgmental, non-criticizing manner. And the TLC should help me with this. 3, I will not ask a bunch of questions. 4, I will stop stock phrases like, "You shouldn't feel that way," or "my favorite. Everything happens for a reason." Next slide. I also want to write things down that I'm hearing, both externally and internally. I also want to ask the talker what they may need from me. If they tell me they just want me to listen, I will not go into advice mode. I will keep my mouth shut and when urged to give advice if not asked for. This will prevent me from being in the drama triangle as a rescuer. To get out of and stay out of the going nowhere cycle, I will examine my thoughts as well as picking one thing to say no to a day. After feeling comfortable with saying no, I will start to delegate tasks and use my inspirational attitude to empower people as I delegate. Next slide. In conclusion, this class and this project have been life-changing. I am so inspired to walk in my newfound knowledge and skills. Thank you, and I hope that you have enjoyed listening to my project.